up everyone, it's Akira. It's been a while. It's been forever since I uploaded a video, and it's because I've been so busy getting used to mom life and all this other stuff, and it's just been pretty crazy. It's been about 2 months since that video, since I gave birth. It's been good. I've really been enjoying being a mom. It's been really busy and crazy, and there's been sleepless nights, and there have been some scares and stuff and all this other stuff, but everything's been going really good so far. Nothing major that, like a big problem. I'm actually like sitting on my couch right now filming. That's why it's like different background and everything, whatever, because I don't feel like setting up my tripod and moving things, and it's just too much work. Since I promised to do an update, well, not an update, but a more thorough, detailed video of my experience from labor to giving birth. That's what this is. It's nothing fancy, no fancy setup, no nothing. I'm just talking to the camera. It took me so long to get to this now because I've been trying to get used to being a mom and all this stuff, and trying to find time, and it's never really been time, which is gonna be a struggle considering I'm trying to be consistent on this channel. So hopefully I'll be able to make more videos in more time and put out more videos each week, and hopefully come up with an upload schedule for different kinds of videos I want to do, and we'll see how things go on. I have to figure out how things work now that I'm a mom, and working around the baby schedule and appointments and all kinds of different things. And so yeah, so let's just get on into the details of how my labor and delivery went. It was about 1:30-ish in the morning the day before I gave birth, when I started having contractions, or I didn't think they were contractions at the time, but they were. And they started coming like every hour or so, every couple hours or so. And so I didn't really think it was a big deal. I was just like, oh, there might just be Braxton Hicks or whatever, which is kind of a dumb thought considering it was the day before my due date, which is, I don't know why I didn't connect that they were actually contractions at the time. So then on, it started getting a little more intense throughout the day, and I just kept going with it. When it started getting a little more intense, I used my app I have, and I started counting my contractions. So they weren't getting much closer during the time, so I just kind of brushed it off, but they were still getting intense and more painful with every one. So then I just brushed it off. So later that day I actually had my appointment with my OBGYN anyway, so I figured, okay, I'm gonna hold it off. I'm gonna go to my appointment and see what she says about it, whatever. So once I went there, she checked me. I was having contractions while I was there, not during the checkup, but like while waiting. And when I went to give a urine sample, I went, and then a contraction kind of triggered a contraction, which was really weird. And when she checked me, checked my cervix, and said I was 3 centimeters dilated at the time. But because my contractions weren't close enough, I didn't have to stay. Me and my dad had actually packed up all of our stuff prior to going to my appointment, just in case she said I had to stay. But I didn't end up having to stay. So we kept stuff in the car anyway, because I kind of had a feeling I was gonna have to be there later, because I was having contractions. I was like, this baby's gonna be coming really soon. So we just kept all my stuff in the car, so in case I had to like go, we would already be packed, and we just get in the car and go. We came back home, and the contractions were still going. They still weren't getting closer, until maybe a few hours later they started getting closer and closer and more intense. And I was trying to like take naps between each contraction, like later that night. That's when they started getting much closer, and I was counting them as getting much closer and much more intense. And then that's when I was like, yeah, these are definitely contractions, because I wasn't sure before. So I was like, yeah, these are definitely contractions. So then I messaged Cody and told him like, hey babe, I'm having contractions, the baby's gonna be here soon, and then like throughout the day, he was saying, okay, well, stay calm, breathe through your contractions, all this stuff. The supportive father says. And throughout the day, I tried to eat food. It was kind of difficult because the pain was like getting really intense, so I couldn't really eat. And every time I had to pee, it would trigger a contraction like every single time, and that was very uncomfortable and annoying. And so I was having my contractions from 1:30 in the morning the day before up until giving birth. So I spent pretty much the whole 24 hours in labor. So that was a pretty interesting experience because I actually spent most of my labor at home, which I really enjoyed, and it was really comfortable. And I was surprised that I could get through it. They weren't as intense as a lot of people or a lot of women have said they were, or a lot of media have portrayed them to be, at least not to me. Every woman is different, so maybe some women it is that painful, but for me it wasn't that painful. I could tolerate it throughout the day because I spent pretty much the whole day at home having my contractions. So my grandma came to visit me later that day, and she was praying and stuff. She's very religious. She's very religious Christian woman, so she was praying the entire time. It's oh Jesus, Jesus, help my baby, all that stuff. And I really appreciated it, even though I'm personally not that religious, but I did appreciate the sentiment and the feeling behind her prayers, which really actually helped me calm down. When she had left, she didn't want to leave me but she didn't want to stay because she didn't like seeing me in pain. Which is why later on in the story, I'm saying she wasn't at the delivery, but she did come. If you saw my birth vlog, you saw that she was there after the fact. So she went home, and later I just kept going through my contractions throughout the rest of the night, and it was around 11 something. I don't really know exactly the time. If I didn't put it in my birth vlog or somewhere, then I really don't know, or I don't remember. But it was around 11 something when my contractions started getting 5 to 3 minutes apart, and I was like, okay, we gotta go now. This baby's gonna be here any second, whatever. And so we ended up going to the hospital because the bags were already packed. We were already gone. Oh, actually no, we switched cars. We switched from my dad's car to my mom's car. So my dad went to switch the bags out of his car to my mom's car. Then we left. And so we went to the hospital, checked in, got into the room, all this other stuff. And I was in there, and I was still having my contractions. And the lady was trying to get my information. I was still having contractions, so I really couldn't give her straight answers, or I wasn't paying attention too well. And she was being very patient with me, which was great because I know I've seen a lot of or heard a lot of stories about nurses not being patient with the patients, and while they're going through their pain, and they get frustrated, which is kind of stupid because you're there to help them, and help them to feel more comfortable about the situation. So I was very grateful for all my nurses and staff and my doctor, who was my OBGYN. So I was very familiar with her, so I felt comfortable with her delivering my baby and everything. So about an hour went by since we left the house, and I was probably in labor for about maybe 30 more minutes before we actually started, before they started saying I had to start pushing. But before that happened, my water actually didn't break at all. So my doctor had to rupture the sac and pretty much break my waters for me. It wasn't technically induced because I was already going through the contractions, and I was 8 centimeters dilated when we got there, and they checked me after I was in bed. So I was already I was ready to go. When my doctor ruptured the sac, all the water came out, and I felt it. It felt really weird. I didn't like it. And because I was laying down on my back, I was on the bed. It just felt really, really weird. Pause. So I forgot to mention that after she ruptured my sac, Nikko actually ended up having a bowel movement while he was still in the womb, which I thought was pretty funny and kind of gross, but I thought it was ironic because I did the exact same thing when I was born, according to my mom. So I just thought that was really funny, and
It's really gross, but I thought it was worth mentioning. So yeah, okay, back to the video.
Anyway, ever since I was like younger, I always said I want to do a natural birth. I think I could do a natural birth. And so many people have said, oh, the women have said that, but then like when they get to the point, they want an epidural and blah blah blah. And I was like, okay, well, if I feel I can't take the pain, then I will get an epidural. But the pain was bad, but it wasn't something I couldn't handle, obviously, because I still ended up doing it natural. After about another maybe 15, 20 minutes, the contractions started getting really, really bad, and then she had came to check me, and I was all the way at 10 centimeters, ready to push, and she was telling me, okay, we gotta get things started, go ahead and start pushing. And then I started pushing and pushing. And it was really crazy, because I actually ended up doing it all natural, which I was planning. All the nurses were like surrounding me. One of the nurses that was checking me in to help me put my gown on when I first got into the room and stuff, she had one leg and my mom was on the other side, had the other leg, and my dad's on the other side next to my mom, and being all supportive. My dad was very uncomfortable, not because of like me giving birth, but because of he didn't like see me in pain, which I love. I love my dad so much, but like the entire situation was just like I was like dizzy, I was shaking. I wasn't dizzy to the point where like I was gonna pass out. It was just more like oh, this is really happening, I'm not in focus or whatever. Oh gosh, I can't believe I'm actually pushing a baby out right now, and I could feel everything because I didn't do the epidural. And they did ask me prior to pushing, like, are you sure you want an epidural, because once we get to a certain point you can't get it. And I was like, no, I want to go natural. So so I did. So then, like, during the pushing process and stuff, I kind of gagged a little, so a little bit of puke came up when I was pushing, because like my body was just like, oh god, this is crazy. And but like I didn't like full on puke or anything. And my legs were shaking, my body was shaking, everything was shaking, and I was shaking prior to that. When I first got into the bed, I was shaking, and like I couldn't stop shaking. My body just, I didn't feel cold, but my body was reacting like I was freezing, and I just kept shaking and shivering, and I couldn't stop. So then, like, after the pushing, the doctor saw Nikko's head, and she was like, do you want to feel his head? And I felt him, I felt his hair and everything. It was really weird. It was so weird. But then like I started feeling motivated more at that moment to push. And then after the next few pushes, he was out, and then he was crying, and my body just like flopped. Like I was just like, it's over. And it just like a whole big sigh of relief just bursted out of me. And then the instant he was out, I just started bawling. Like I just heard his cries, and I just started bawling, and I couldn't stop. And I was just like, oh my god, my baby's here, my baby's healthy. And my dad ended up cutting the cord because Cody wasn't there to do it, and my mom was recording and everything. And the whole experience was amazing. Like I was so comfortable the entire time, and it was so great. I loved it. I loved it so much, and I would totally do it again. I would definitely go natural again if things are healthy enough for me to do so, and there were no complications. I didn't tear, which was great, and I think that's mostly because my doctor was actually massaging me to kind of like help the baby come out instead of just like standing there like just push the baby out, you know. So I think that really helped. And throughout the pushing, that was probably the most painful part, was her massaging, because I didn't really feel much pain through pushing other than feeling her fingers massage. So I was like, okay, that really, really hurt, but it helped, and I didn't tear, and I was grateful that I didn't tear, because I did not want to have stitches down there. And so yeah, that's pretty much the entire story from start to finish, from the start of my labor to the birth. After that, everything was pretty smooth. My body was calm. They took his measurements and weighed him and all the good stuff they needed to do. Took his footprints, and he got one of his shots. I don't know which one it was, but he got one of his shots. He got another one before we left to go home as well. Like a hepatitis B shot and another shot, I think. And so yeah, the whole delivery was amazing. I have no complaints whatsoever. The healing process was a bit of a struggle from coming home. The being at the hospital, it was a little weird because I felt lighter, because my stomach was like still kind of flabby. It just felt weird to carry that around and touch it, because like I used to have like a really flat stomach. It wasn't like flat, and I didn't have abs or anything. I wasn't like muscular, but I was really skinny and flat. And I don't mind how I look now. It's not really that bad. I'll probably show a clip of how I look now, or how my stomach looks now, like in the corner somewhere, or like after the video or whatever. But yeah, everything was amazing, and my baby boy is here, and he's getting so fat. He eats a lot, and he's over 2 months old now, and I'm so grateful that he's here and he's healthy, and he gets his shots next month. He's supposed to get his shots at 2 months, but we can only get a schedule for at around 3 months. So I mean, I'm sure he'll be fine. He doesn't really leave the house much, so I'm sure he'll be fine to not have his shots for a little bit longer than usual. And he's actually right here in my arms. He's been in my arms the entire time. I don't know if he's been making noises. He's asleep, but I don't know if you heard him or not. But I'm gonna actually show you a clip of him right now. Here's my baby boy, all sleeping, big baby. As you can see, he got a little color to his skin now. Looking much darker. Looking like mommy now. Sleepy boy. Look how big he is. Look at him. He's so big. But yeah, so yeah, that's my story. There have been some changes that I actually wanted to share with you guys. I'm actually not going back to California after all. For the last couple months, almost 2 months. It was a little shortly after Nikko was born. Cody actually flew back down to Florida, and now he's living here with me and my family, and we're going to stay here. So there's gonna be no more California, and we're still gonna stay here in Florida, and I'm so happy. He wasn't happy about it at first, but he'll come around and things will get a lot easier. So the plan is for me and him to stay here with my parents for the next year, because my mom and dad are still planning on trying to buy a house. They're not giving up on that. So the idea is that Cody's working now, and I'm right now a stay-at-home mom until Nikko gets older and people can watch him, and he doesn't have to rely on milk all the time. He can start eating solid foods. It'll be a lot easier for other people to watch him. I do pump, but I don't pump enough, or I don't have time to pump enough for him to have all the food he needs for someone to watch him, for me to be able to go to work. So when he starts eating solid foods, that'd be a lot easier regarding that. So hopefully within the next few months I'll be able to start working and making more money, and the idea is for me and Cody to help with the bills here and be put on the lease later on next year, hopefully at the beginning of next year. It's actually almost in the middle of December right now, and the lease is up the end of this month. So my parents already renewed the lease for next year, and hopefully we'll be able to be added onto there so that Cody can get renter's history. I have renter's history from when I lived with my roommates here months ago before I moved to Colorado. So I have a little bit of renter's history, but adding on here I'll have more, and then they'll help our credit go up and all this stuff. And then we're working on trying to get a car and all of these things. I still don't have my license. I know, kind of sad, 23-year-old mom now, don't have my driver's license yet. I do have my learner's permit still, so I'm still in the process of, I know how to drive. I'm not like in the process of learning. Only things I really need to learn is how to park. Parking is the worst thing for me, but other than that, yeah, so that's pretty much the plan for the next year. And hopefully we'll be able to have our stuff together, and then me and Cody can have our own place and be able to raise our baby in an environment where it's not so crowded and it's more kid friendly and stuff. I mean, it's pretty kid friendly here, but we do have a lot of things that have to be baby proofed when he's starting to crawl around and walk around and stuff. So that's the thing, but everything's going pretty great, and I have no complaints so far. Nights are rough. For the first month, Nikko's been sleeping on my chest at night because he would not sleep in his crib. He refused to sleep in his crib, and only recently, the past couple nights, he's been sleeping in his crib all throughout the night, except for when I had to wake him up for feeding. So he's been doing really good. Last night wasn't so good. So he slept on my chest again last night because he was just really upset. I don't know what was wrong, and he would only sleep on my chest last night. So that happened. But he did have 2 naps in his crib earlier today, so it's getting better. But yeah, that's pretty much all I think I need to tell you guys regarding everything, the updates, and the details on my labor and delivery, which is what this video is mainly about. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video, which hopefully will be soon and a lot more frequent, since I'm starting to get a hang of this mother thing, and hopefully being able to schedule around taking care of him and stuff. So hopefully I'll have more videos out and more videos coming out more frequently regarding that. And yeah, until the next video, I will see you guys, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.
Oh, sleepy boy, sleepy chunky boy.
Snorty boy. Snorty boy. You sound like a monster. You're probably scaring him.